Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome to the top 10 obscure locations in Fallout New Vegas. Now, a while back I made a video called the top 10 locations you might have missed in Fallout New Vegas, and this was one of my most successful videos yet. However, there were a lot of comments talking about various places in the Mojave, so this is kind of a follow-up to that video. Now, the goal of that video was to introduce locations that would be good in the late game, a little bit more difficult. And besides for the New Vegas sewers, I think all of the locations pretty much fit that bill. The New Vegas sewers realistically could be done at lower levels. Now, this video is going to be focusing primarily on locations with a lot of things going on that are more obscure, a little bit more difficult to find, or just out of the way. Now, many of these locations could be attempted at much lower levels. However, there is one location where you probably want to be a higher level. Obviously, if you watch the video, you can see the enemies that I'm fighting, and you can make a decision based on what you see. Please make an educated decision so you don't get yourself in a sticky situation. Also, I wanted all of these locations to have something going on, or at least kind of be worth the visit. For example, a location such as the Deserted Shack is very obscure. However, it's so obscure and out of the way, and there's nothing even going on here, that one might even just consider it obsolete. Its really only true purpose is to serve as a fast travel marker in case your enemies with the NCR. That way you can still access the 188 trading post. A similar place might be the various Prospector camps throughout the game. This is the Snyder Prospector camp, and like the Deserted Shack, it's pretty much just an empty shack in the middle of nowhere, so obscure that it's pretty much obsolete. However, near here is a herd of bighorners, and I was suddenly attacked by Legion assassins, and it created a pretty funny and epic battle between me, the legionaries, and the bighorners who started attacking the Legion. This one legionary got really scared and he just freaking booked it. Anyways, I just thought it was a really funny encounter. So hey, maybe the Snyder Prospector camp should be on the list. But let's get down to business. Number 10, Horowitz Farmstead and Brooks Tumbleweed Ranch. Now, a disclaimer: to fully experience these two locations, make sure you have the Wild Wasteland perk. Anyways, Horowitz Farmstead is just a farm that is located northwest of New Vegas. It is pretty remote. We can see there's like some corn or something growing out in this field, and it seems pretty empty if you approach from Highway 95, kind of like I did. Here you can see the location on the world map, just up here to the northwest. You might be familiar with it on your way to Jacobstown. There's also some cazadors in the area, so do be careful. However, in the barn, we can actually find a small gang of Viper gang members, and that poor Viper just got absolutely obliterated. But anyways, once you kill the Vipers, there is various loot inside of the barn, so make sure you take a look around. You got some ammunition crates and perhaps some Sunset Sarsaparilla Star bottle caps. But besides that, there really isn't a whole lot going on here. The most interesting thing going on here is if you go straight north from Horowitz Farmstead, you will find a UFO along with 3 aliens just kind of looking around. Now, you can actually sneak up on these aliens pretty close, as you can see there, but you're going to want to kill them because they'll instantly turn hostile. Now, on the alien captain, we can find the legendary Alien Blaster. Unfortunately, you only get a limited amount of ammo for this gun, and you can never get it back, so make sure you use this gun wisely, probably for sticky situations. Now, if we head straight to the west, we can find Brooks Tumbleweed Ranch, and that Tumbleweed portion is very important. We'll get to that later. Now, this is actually one of my favorite encounters in the entire game. I think it's highly underrated just because of how funny and random it is. Anyways, inside the little house here, we can find some tumbleweeds and stuff like that, but you'll quickly notice that if you were to take anything, it's considered stealing. So like this Star Sunset Sarsaparilla bottle cap, when I take it, it's considered stealing and we lose karma. Now, if you wait until nighttime and you go to the little pin where there's tumbleweeds and you walk towards the middle, you'll be greeted by this very friendly Nightkin.
You want to buy Wind Brahmin? Right here. Where did you come from? What? Crazy with low prices on Wind Brahmin. You buy one. Good to...
So yeah, this Nightkin will take all of your bottle caps. Here I have almost 3.7 million bottle caps, and this Nightkin was just like, yep, they're all mine now. But if you kill them, you can get your bottle caps back. Thank God. Now I want to test some things with this Nightkin. If you only have one bottle cap, he will accept just the one bottle cap. And if you have 0 bottle caps, well, he will accept 0 bottle caps. It doesn't really matter as long as you say, okay. And there are your newly acquired tumbleweeds over in the corner. So these two locations, Horowitz Farmstead and Brooks Tumbleweed Ranch, are really kind of just out of the way in the northern part of the map, but they're really cool. They have some very funny and interesting interactions going on, which is why I included them at the top of this list. Number 9, Techatticup Mine. Techatticup Mine is located just east of Novak, and this is a location I didn't know about until recently, even though there is a pretty interesting quest associated with this location. But as we will see, if you do this quest and you're an enemy of the Legion, you have to be really careful because the man who gives you the quest, well, he'll likely be murdered unless you are careful. To find Techatticup Mine, just take the road straight east from Novak. Eventually you'll come to that little NCR outpost. Instead of going to Nelson, turn right and just follow this road, and eventually you will find Private Reynolds. Private Reynolds here will ask you for assistance because his squad was ambushed and several of them have been captured and taken prisoner inside of Techatticup Mine. So this will start the quest, Anywhere I Wander. And this is actually a quest that you can do very early on in the game because all of the legionaries in this location are not too difficult. So here you can see the location on the world map and the quest Anywhere I Wander. Now if we head on over to Techatticup Mine, we're going to find 2 legionaries outside. However, I was able to make quick work out of both of them. However, I was quickly ambushed by Legion assassins from behind. And yes, these Legion assassins killed Private Reynolds, so the quest was failed. So we have to go back in time, reload a save. This time I used some mini nukes in order to kill these legionary assassins. In this area, legionary assassins will almost always spawn, so make sure you kill them before interacting with Private Reynolds. Otherwise, Private Reynolds is as good as dead, and the quest is as good as failed. After that, we can go up this little pathway, there's an ammunition box there, and enter Techatticup Mine. Inside, you're going to find a ton of recruit legionaries, along with some of these wild dogs, and just kind of kill them, make your way up. Now, if you go to the right, if you don't have 50 lockpick, you want to go to the left first. That way you can get the key to these cages. But if you have 50 lockpick, it's not a problem. You can pick them and then find the NCR soldiers inside. Simply just untie them. You really cannot interact with them much. They just say, fuck this place, and then they run away. There's 2 cages that you have to unlock and just 2 soldiers that you have to help. And also inside of this cage, we can find a duffel bag that we can't open, but there's also some stim packs and stuff like that. I do not know why the legionaries would lock up NCR soldiers with health items, but hey, who am I to judge? Anyways, if you go left, you will find a path that goes deep into the mine. There will be 2 cages along the way. If you pick them, you will find various loot inside of the cages, like stim packs, ammunition, and stuff like that. And eventually, you'll enter a very large room with several legionaries. You're going to go ahead and kill them all, obviously. And it might take a little bit because there's a lot of them, but they're all pretty weak, except for one of them, and that is Alexis. Alexis can be a little bit hard to kill, but yeah, I took him out, and on Alexis's dead body, you can find ammunition and the key to those cages in case you don't have 50 lockpick. And down in the big room, we can find a ton of radioactive barrels. Don't know why all of these legionaries were hanging out in this room. Maybe they were trying to become ghouls or something. Just something kind of wild going on. Anyways, we can return to Private Reynolds and let him know that we freed all of the NCR hostages. And of course, Private Reynolds will be forever grateful for our good deed. He will thank us and we will gain a large amount of NCR fame. So if you're trying to go for a pro NCR route or maybe just House and Yes Man, you want to be a little bit friendly with the NCR, this can be a really good way to do it. Techatticup Mine is a pretty cool location, I think. It's a location that is easily missed, and a quest that is also easily missed just because Private Reynolds is so vulnerable and can be easily killed by the environment. So if you haven't already, I'd highly recommend popping on down here and seeing if Private Reynolds is alive, and well, if he's not alive, you can still check out Techatticup Mine. Number 8, Train Tunnel and Gypsum Train Yard. Now, these two locations are very close to one another, and Train Tunnel might be very obscure for many players because you need a 100 lockpick to enter. There is no key to this facility. Train Tunnel is located just south of Nellis Air Force Base, and if you keep going further south, you'll arrive at Gypsum Train Yard. The purpose of Train Tunnel is to provide the player character, with a safe route to Nellis Air Force Base. However, since you need 100 lockpick and the other side is guarded by Deathclaws, and considering you go to Nellis Air Force Base relatively early in the game, I have no idea what Obsidian was thinking when they made this location. It seems like they kind of just rushed it at the last second, and this is what we got. Assuming you are friendly with the boomers or you killed them all, you can easily just walk up to the northern entrance, and it'll obviously be a very hard lock. Once you pick it, you'll find a very familiar subway station, similar to those that you will find in Fallout 3, that, just has the typical train tracks and then the little platforms up on the side. There are several feral ghouls down here, so be ready for a bit of a fight. Of course, the glowing ones provide the biggest challenge, and if you have 100 lockpick, I'm sure a lot of these ghouls will be, relatively difficult because you're probably a high level. There's also frag mines on the ground, so be aware of those. Inside of this maintenance room, we can find a construction hat, which is actually a kind of a rare item within Fallout New Vegas, so make sure you pick that up. But besides that, they're just bottle caps, ammunition boxes, kind of just typical loot in Fallout. And when we get to the southern end, we'll be greeted with another very hard lock, and we can come outside. Do be careful right here, because oftentimes there will be death claws. After that, we can just make our way to the south, and we will find Gypsum Train Yard, obviously a gypsum mine, and normally there are a fuck ton of death claws here. However, none of them spawn for whatever reason, and I've actually found this to be a pretty common glitch on the backwards compatible version of Fallout New Vegas on the Xbox Series S, which is what I'm playing on, at least for making this video. So after quitting the game, resetting it, the death claws will all spawn, just like a half dozen of them, just kindly waiting for me. And what ensued was a pretty freaking terrible fight, kind of difficult, but shooting the legs of the death claws with explosive rounds from the anti-material rifle is really effective because it makes them walk like zombies, as you can see here. So I can quite easily just take them all out from a safe distance because, they can no longer run. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, most of these locations will be okay for lower to mid-level characters. However, Gypsum Train Yard is, of course, obviously, and Train Yard for that matter, is the one location that might not be suitable for, lower to mid levels, probably want to be a higher level. Now, inside of the little office here, we can find some giant worker ants, but they're pretty easy to kill. Take them all out, and apparently there is a Star Sunset Sarsaparilla bottle cap in there, but it's extremely glitched, and I've never managed to find it. Also, for taking out the death claws here, you can use this, little conveyor belt over here next to the mountain, and you can easily snipe the death claws from afar, and you're perfectly safe up there. To me, Train Tunnel always had this kind of mysterious feel to it just because of how inaccessible it is, especially in an early playthrough. And then Gypsum Train Yard is a great place to test your skills. While not nearly as difficult as Deathclaw Promontory, Deadwind Cavern, or Quarry Junction, this place is pretty good. It's a good challenge, and it features the unique Blind Deathclaw, which are actually better than normal Deathclaws because they have higher perception. Just an interesting little fact, but all their other base stats are the same. Number 7, Mathews Animal Husbandry Farm. This is actually low-key one of my favorite locations in the entire game. The aesthetic, the atmosphere, the music, and then some of the objects that we can find around are just so incredible. Now, the first time that you come here, you will discover 2 unique animal species within the game. While they might just look like normal bighorners and Brahmin, if you approach them, they are all malnourished. Malnourished bighorners and malnourished Brahmin. Even the young ones are malnourished. So obviously something bad has happened here to these animals, and this place is completely abandoned. However, down by the burnt out house, we can find 2 graves marked with crosses, and you can get some very beautiful and haunting scenes around Mathews Animal Husbandry Farm, so I highly recommend just taking it slow here, enjoying the atmosphere, and enjoying the story that unfolds. If you want to experience it for yourself without being spoiled, this is your chance to pause the video and head there yourself. there are 4 notes that you want to find and that you want to read. That way you know the whole story. But if you want to hear the story here, well, let's jump on into it. Located east of Nipton and southwest of Camp Searchlight, the location of this place is very important to its story. At Mathews Animal Husbandry Farm, we can find 2 barns. In the barn to the south, on the staircase, we can find the first note, Torn Diary page 1, which reads, Dear Diary, Mom and Dad went into the NCR camp nearby to trade for supplies, but they haven't come back yet. I hope nothing bad has happened to them. Of course, the NCR camp that the author is talking about is Camp Searchlight, and we all know that something very bad happened at Camp Searchlight with the Legion's radiation attack on the camp, well, if not killing everyone inside the camp, turning them into ghouls. After picking up the note, we can head to the top of the south barn and you'll find a duffel bag with some handy supplies inside of it. After that, we can exit the barn and head towards down this truck, which is parked next to the burnt down house. If we head to the back of the truck, we can find a note next to a suitcase. This is Torn Diary page number 2, and it reads, Dear Diary, I took a chance today and left the animals alone to go look for Mom and Dad. I found them in that camp. They have become horrible, feral ghouls. I didn't know what to do. They came at me so fast. Oh God, what have I done? This story takes a tragic turn. Of course, once you are seen by a feral ghoul, well, you really only have one option, and that's to kill it. Whoever this author is had to kill both of their parents for survival. After this, we can head to the northernmost barn here, which has some Brahmin inside of it. We can go up the staircase to the very top, and at the top we will find the next diary page on this wooden crate, Torn Diary page number 3, which reads, Dear Diary, I hate being all alone. I want my mom and dad back, but I can't have them back because I killed them. I didn't want to kill them, but I had to kill them. Otherwise, they would have eaten me. I hope the animals don't eat me. Can animals become ghouls? Being alone next to a camp of feral ghouls is, well, probably not good for your mental. After that, we can find a copy of the Wasteland Survival Guide up here next to the note, and then we have a view of Camp Searchlight off in the distance. Finally, we can make our way to the burnt down house. We find a lot of debris and stuff inside of it. As we make our way over here next to the refrigerator, we can find a corpse, a skeleton, and then Torn Diary page number 4 next to it. It reads, Dear Diary, the animals, they are evil. They tried to eat me in my sleep. They want the farm for themselves. Now that Mom and Dad are gone, they want the farm for themselves. They are plotting against me, plotting to eat me. They are becoming ghouls like my parents, and they want to eat me like my parents did. Too many of them to kill them all. I know what I'll do. I'll burn down the house around me. Then the animals can't eat me because there will be nothing left for them to eat. And with that final note, we now know what happened. We can assume a, child or young teenager committed suicide because they thought they would be eaten by the animals surrounding them, when in reality the animals were always their friend and actually quite loyal. All of the animals here show no malice. They all seem very friendly, but they are all starving. This leads me to ask the question, what is the most humane thing to do here? Should you kill all the animals out of respect and just to try and put them out of their misery, or should you let them live? I don't know. After that, we can head further south and we can find the crashed vertibird. If you come here with Arcade Gannon, he'll have some unique dialogue, and we can also find the Tesla cannon here. A little bit further north, we can find the raided farmstead. This contains a gang of vipers and a unique encounter. The first time you come here, it appears abandoned, and if you go inside of the RV, you will find a lot of skeletons, even the skeleton of a child, quite dark. And if we go back outside, we will be ambushed by the Viper gang. However, little did these Vipers know they were going to be ambushed by an even bigger gang as we were fighting it out and I was being blown up by a grenade launcher. I was ambushed by Legion assassins who promptly massacred all of the Vipers, except for 2 Vipers that just kind of ran away and hid because, well, the Legion assassins are a much higher level. But then I tracked down the Viper gunslingers and I killed them both. So a pretty funny interaction here, but besides that, that's all that really is in this area. And with that tragic story and the haunting yet beautiful atmosphere at this location, it just makes it one of my favorite obscure locations in the entire game. If you've never experienced it or you've never been, I cannot recommend it enough. Number 6, Fireroot Cavern and Cottonwood Crater. Now these 2 locations are actually connected. In order to reach Cottonwood Crater, you actually have to first go through Fireroot Cavern. Now Cottonwood Crater actually has a pretty significant importance to the plot of Fallout New Vegas. During the defense of Las Vegas by Mr. House, he managed to shoot down most of the incoming atomic bombs. However, 9 of them got through, and we can assume that Cottonwood Crater is one of the locations of one of those bombs that did manage to get through. So let's check it out. Located just south of Cottonwood Cove and to the southeast of Camp Searchlight, the entrance to this place can be a little bit easy to miss and difficult to find, but I'll show you how to get there. You're going to find a lot of fire geckos outside. That's how you know you're in the right area. You want to go all the way up next to the mountain where the map actually ends, and just make sure you defend yourself from the fire geckos. Just hug the side of the mountain until you find a little ramp, and this will take us up to the entrance of Fireroot Cavern. And we can now enter this cave. And inside of the cave, we can find a lot of fire geckos, so do be prepared for a bit of a fight, but just kind of shooting off their heads with the anti-material rifle is, well, really satisfying. Also inside of Fireroot Cavern, we can find the unique, legendary fire gecko. And he was also just kind of glitched out. I actually had 2 weird glitches happen with this fire gecko. The first one was he got phased into this wall here, and I tried to make like a beautiful shot of him just running with his mouth open, as you can see here. But as soon as I set up this pretty epic and amazing and just glorious shot, well, the legendary fire gecko teleported through the wall and bit me in the face. After this, I fell down to the lower area, and well, I actually proceeded to die. So coming back, I once again fought the legendary fire gecko. This time after I killed him, he just froze in place. I was able to search his body, however it had no hit detection, and he was just kind of standing here like a, well, badass. So we could get an epic scenic shot of him just standing there. Probably good for like scientific research or something. Over here we can find the unique evil gnome just standing there, but then I became over encumbered, but hey, it's okay, just drop something and we can take home the evil gnome. We must take home the evil gnome. As we come out the other exit, we will discover Cottonwood Crater. This highly radioactive crater is just a pool of water with some golden geckos. Over on this small island poking out of the water, we can find a dead prospector who is armed with a fat man. This is one of the few fat mans that are actually in the world that we can get without buying. So if you are a lower level, this might be a good place to stop by if you would like a fat man. And with that, we have Cottonwood Crater and Fireroot Cavern, a place that is actually quite easy to miss, but from the top we can get some absolutely amazing views of the surrounding area. We can fight a magical legendary fire gecko, and all around it's just a really kind of cool location that is definitely out of the way. Number 5, Bloodborne Cave. So first, full disclosure, if you've never been to this location, I highly recommend you check it out first because there's a bit of a surprise waiting for you inside of the cave that I think is worth experiencing for the first time. If you've already been here, you just don't care, here's the location of Bloodborne Cave, just southeast of Nellis Air Force Base, kind of nestled inside of these red rocks near Bitter Springs. When you approach the cave, you're going to find a lot of Night Stalkers just kind of hanging outside of the cave. Just make sure you kill them, and once we're inside of the cave, well, we'll be greeted by even more Night Stalkers. Now, if you have 100 lockpick, you can just go the way I'm going right. If you don't have 100 lockpick, you probably want to go left. The reason for that is we can find this very hard locked gate. which we want to open because we can find some pretty decent loot inside. There's a first aid box that had nothing, but we can also find a fuck ton of money and a 12.7mm submachine gun. After that, as we go further into the cave, we're going to find a lot of dead bodies and skeletons, and of course, Night Stalkers. Obviously, these Night Stalkers are terrorizing just local people and killing them and eating them. We can find a dead Legendarian in here as well. I have no clue how he got inside of here, but hey, it doesn't matter. And eventually, you're going to find this small camp, and there's going to be a legendary Night Stalker. Now, if you go left at the beginning of the cave, it'll take you straight to the legendary Night Stalker and this small camp. And near the campfire, we can actually find a key to that very hard lock from earlier. Now, around the campfire, we can find several dead bodies, including the dead body of a child surrounded by toys, quite disturbing, a hunting revolver next to another dead body, and then next to the fire is the key, which we'll want to take, well, if we don't have a 100 lockpick. But I also want to show off that these Night Stalkers were also getting stuck inside of the wall. I just find it very amusing and very hilarious every time it happens. And with that, that is Bloodborne Cave. Now, if you've been here before, you'll know that I failed to mention something, so I'll go ahead and mention it just so you know if you stuck around this long, but it is kind of a spoiler. On the very hard lock, there is a tripwire. If you open the gate and walk in without disarming the tripwire, a metric fuck ton of frag grenades will fall from above, and they will blow you sky high. It is quite amusing. I fell for the trap the first time I walked in, and while the explosion scared me, it is now a really fun and great memory within Fallout New Vegas, and I just hope some other people will fall for it and also have a good memory if they've never been here before. Number 4, the Mesquite Mountains. We're going to be looking at 2 locations during this portion, Mesquite Mountains Campground and Mesquite Mountains Crater. This crater, like the Cottonwood crater we talked about earlier, was also likely the result of a nuclear explosion during the defense of Las Vegas, again, where 9 nuclear warheads managed to get through Mr. House's defenses. This is likely the location of one of the detonations. Now, the Mesquite Mountains are located just west of Primm, and they're just north of the Mojave Outpost. I think they're pretty easy to miss just because most players don't go near here while they're kind of at the beginning of the game. Now, there are a fucking ton of rad scorpions hanging out in these mountains, so do be aware of that. If you've just started the game, I would imagine this location would be quite difficult. But at a mid to lower mid level, I think it's probably fine. Anyways, as we approach the first part, which is the Mesquite Mountains Campground, located just south of the Mesquite Mountains Crater, we will find this small little trailer with some crates and stuff inside of it, being pulled along by a pickup truck, and then being ambushed by some giant rad scorpions, but thankfully, the small trailer is safe. Thank you, small trailer. And this rad scorpion was really pissed off at that truck. Anyways, killing more rad scorpions, because, well, why the fuck not, we'll eventually find the Mesquite Mountains Campground. And here we can find a lot of tents, a campfire, and this can actually be used as player housing if you're interested. We have some very beautiful views of the surrounding area. Inside of this first tent, we can find a copy of the Wasteland Survival Guide. Be careful because that survival guide might clip through the floor and you'll never be able to get it, so make sure you save before coming here. We can also find a Star Sunset Sarsaparilla bottle cap in the other tent, and there's just some picnic tables and stuff outside where you can chill and pop open an ice-cold bottle of Sunset Sarsaparilla. And then after that, we can make our way north, just following the Mesquite Mountains. We'll find a lot of rad scorpions on our journey, and eventually you'll find the large crater. This crater is highly radioactive. It has no nuclear waste, like barrels, inside of it, so we can just assume it's the location of a nuclear detonation. There will be a lot of feral ghouls in the crater, so make sure you kill them, or you just be safe. Maybe you can sneak past them even. Now, at the very back of the crater, we can find the interestingly named Hell's Motel. I don't know if there was supposed to be more going on here, but this location seems kind of interesting. As we enter Hell's Motel, we can find a dead doctor and a crazed Mr. Handy, and that's all there is. The dead doctor, Dr. Rotson, just doesn't really have anything on him, but it appears tragic. Perhaps he was going to have a larger role in the game, maybe tied to some quest or something, but Obsidian just didn't have time. On the crazed Mr. Handy, of course, we can get flamer fuel, typical for a Mr. Handy. Over here there is a briefcase, and just above it we can find a DC Journal of Internal Medicine. Upstairs there is a bed, and we can sleep in Hell's Motel because there's no radiation inside the building itself. However, if we go downstairs to the kitchen and open up the refrigerator, we can find that all of the food and drinks are irradiated. So obviously maybe there is some radiation leaking in. Back outside we can find some more ghouls just kind of roaming around the crater, so we'll deal with them as we see fit. And if we come all the way to the very edge of the crater over here, there's like a small cliff, and then you can kind of see Primm off in the distance. You'll also notice that there is an antenna sticking up out of the ground here, and this is actually the Mesquite Mountains lean-to, an unmarked location. Be careful because there's a fragment mine conveniently placed underneath that traffic cone. And then here we can find a hockey mask, a first aid box, and of course a bed which we can use. So the Mesquite Mountains are a pretty cool location that are near the beginning of the game, but I feel like it's very easy to miss, especially for lower levels because they see all those rad scorpions, so they just run away. So I really love these locations. Also, they have a big impact on the lore of the game. Number 3, Lake Mead. Now, obviously, Hoover Dam is a centerpiece of Fallout New Vegas. It is why there is a war happening in New Vegas. However, Lake Mead is a little bit overshadowed by the rest of the game. Most of your time here will be spent finding the bomber that is at the bottom of Lake Mead, obviously for the boomers. If you're seeking a positive relationship with the boomers, of course, you could always just kill them all. Now, while you are searching for the bomber, even though there is a marker that leads you to it, that'll pretty much be the extent of your exploration. So I want to show some things that might be easily missed and are kind of cool around Lake Mead, so let's check it out. We'll be starting our journey at Calville Bay, which is here on the map. I'm not going to talk much about Calville just because it's next to the bomber. I feel like most players have an experience there. If you haven't, I recommend it because there are a ton of cazadors, which you can fight, obviously. But we're going to be starting our journey from Calville Bay just because that's where a lot of players will already have marked on their world map because of the Bomber Boomer's quest. Now, in the middle of Lake Mead, we can find the Scavenger Platform. Scavenger Platform is inhabited by a ton of lake lurks, and it may have obviously been used a long time ago by scavengers. However, those scavengers are long dead. On the platform, we can find a lot of ammunition boxes, along with a copy of the Wasteland Survival Guide. This kind of thrown about on this bookshelf that has fallen over. But besides that, there really isn't a whole lot out here, but this does act as a good fast travel point for, well, being in the middle of Lake Mead. Obviously, they had to put something out here, so there is a fast travel point because you cannot fast travel into water. Now, as I jump in the water and start swimming east, I wanted to mention that underneath the water, there's all kinds of cool rock and canyons that are at the bottom of Lake Mead. Just really cool design. It's not just a flat ground, which they could have easily have done. But eventually, if you keep swimming east, you will find Lake Mead Cave. This is a marked location, and it's literally just an underwater cave. It is highly recommended that you have the rebreather in order to explore the cave because, well, there is one pocket with air where you can get some oxygen, but it would be very difficult to enjoy this location without the rebreather. If you're the enemy of the boomers, well, it's too bad. Now, at the bottom of this first little cave room, we can find some crates of Sunset Sarsaparilla, along with a lot of shopping carts. Don't know how or why they got down here. We can also find a lot of first aid boxes and some lockers and stuff like that. Eventually, you'll find a little tunnel underwater, and this will take us into the next room. Here we can find parts of a car. I have no clue how someone got a car down here. And if we go to the other side, we can find a very interesting scene. We have a bunch of suitcases, an ammunition box, and a skeleton that has a ton of pre-war money and casino chips. Perhaps this person made it big in Las Vegas. Perhaps they stole a bunch of money. Who knows, but either way, they ended up at the bottom of a underwater cave. And then if we swim on over to the southern shores of Lake Mead, we'll find the Boulder Beach Campground. Like it said, though, it's really just an old pre-war campground. There's really nothing of note here. We do have some docks that lead into Lake Mead, and there's some campgrounds up on the ridge. The main thing I really wanted to point out here is the sunken Sunset Sarsaparilla truck. If we just head a little bit north of the Boulder Beach Campground, you're going to find a ton of lake lurks. Kill those lake lurks, swim underwater, and you will see the sunken Sunset Sarsaparilla truck off in the distance. this lake lurk was running from me and I couldn't kill him. Just thought it was kind of funny. But anyways, at the truck, we can find a, well, fuck ton of Sunset Sarsaparilla bottles. So if you ever need bottles to make water at the Big MT, well, there you go. Also in these crates here, we can find Sunset Sarsaparilla, and there's also a star bottle cap just amongst the hundreds of bottles that we can find here. Now, this is a pretty small location, it's unmarked, but it's something that is quite easily missed in the game. And there you have some interesting things around Lake Mead. I always think it's a good idea to just kind of go around Lake Mead. You never know what you're going to find, and the bottom is actually kind of interesting. And there are fish in the lake. Of course, they're not the smartest fish ever, but still something you can kind of observe. So there you have it, Lake Mead. Number 2, Crescent Canyon. Crescent Canyon is located just south of Nipton and just east of the Mojave Outpost, and this is a very easy location to miss, just because I think for most early players, they just want to get to Nipton, which is the next objective during, when you're trying to find Benny at the beginning of the game. So most players just blow past it, and they never think about it again. But there's a lot of interesting things going on in Crescent Canyon, and it can offer a pretty decent challenge because of a lot of the enemies here. You'd probably want to be a medium level in order to take it on, but you could try to get into the canyon at an early level because there is some useful loot that might be good for an early playthrough. So we're going to start our journey at Nipton Road Pit Stop, and we're just going to move in counterclockwise, going to Morningstar Cavern, then the Crescent Canyon, and we're going to end in the middle at Scorpion Burrow. Now, as we make our way from the Nipton rest stop, we're going to head over to this crashed plane. This plane just appears to be some kind of transport vehicle, and there are some rad scorpions that will be surrounding it, and they'll start attacking you, so make sure you take them out. Over here by the wing, we can find an ammunition box, but besides just this plane being kind of a cool landmark, that's all there is here as far as loot. Now, if we head straight to the southwest, we will find Morningstar Cavern. This cave is inhabited by, well, a ton of Night Stalkers, and also the uniquely named Den Mother, which is obviously, well, the mother of these Night Stalkers. Now, this location is probably most famous for because there's a very easy map exit glitch right here just outside of the cave, but yeah, that's a different topic for a different day. Now, inside of the cave, we will find a lot of mutilated bodies and animals, such as that mole rat. There's also a lot of skeletons and humans as well. There's the Den Mother. She's actually pretty easy to kill compared to just like normal Night Stalkers, but she is far bigger, that's for sure. We'll find a pile of skeletons towards the back, and if we go to the very back of the cave, we can find a dead mercenary that has some ammunition, caps, and alcohol on him. I'm not sure which gender it is, but anyways, there's also a duffel bag right next to them with some very useful loot inside of it, so definitely take a look. Now, coming out of Morningstar Cavern, we can make our way to the southeast, and we'll find the eastern entrance to Crescent Canyon. It's literally called Crescent Canyon West. And this entrance is guarded by a ton of golden geckos, so make sure you take them out, otherwise they're going to be chasing you through the canyon. Now, Crescent Canyon is pretty freaking huge, and you can walk through it for a long time. It has a bunch of radiation barrels, so obviously it was a dumping ground for nuclear waste during the pre-war era. Eventually, you're going to find this overturned truck at the bottom. Next to it will be this radiation suit case, which has an advanced radiation suit inside of it. Really good for radiation resistance. A perfect place to start using it, might I add. As we keep going through the canyon, eventually you're going to find this crashed car that has obviously been destroyed, and next to it is an armor case that has combat armor in it. If you could get in here at a low level, you could get some very good armor early on in the game, so that's why I said that earlier at this part of the video. Now, eventually, towards the middle, you're going to find a crashed train and a destroyed bridge above you. So this used to be one of the railroad entrances into the Mojave Wasteland. And then on this side, we will find Crescent Canyon East. For whatever reason, Crescent Canyon has two marked locations, the west entrance and the east entrance. Now, one thing I did want to point out is the railroad tracks here. There's just something kind of funny here that hints to New Vegas's rush development. If you follow along, eventually the train tracks actually end, and the bridge is just a road. They never spent time to build a texture for a railroad bridge. They literally just slapped a road here and put train on top of it, but at the crashed boxcar, they forgot to add new tracks, so it just kind of looks funny, at least in my opinion, and something that, you probably would never notice because, well, whoever looks at that kind of thing, besides, well, me. After that, if we just head to the northwest, kind of towards the middle of the entire area we've been circling, you're going to find a very flat, kind of like desert area. And in the middle of this, you will find a burrow. This is Scorpion's Burrow, and you can actually enter it. And as we enter, we'll immediately find a dead wastelander with Sierra Madre chips. Have no idea how they got those. But anyways, there's going to be a ton of rad scorpions in here. Who would have guessed that? And so you just want to take out all the rad scorpions. And then there is a rad scorpion queen down here who can obviously inflict a lot of damage and has a lot of health. So make sure you take her out. Now, rather unfortunately, there really isn't a whole lot of loot down here, so there isn't much purpose to come down here besides to just kill the Rad Scorpion Queen. Also, one thing I wanted to mention is my game glitched outside. Normally, the outside of the burrow is surrounded by a ton of Rad Scorpions. For whatever reason, they didn't spawn during my playthrough, but just be aware. And often, Oliver Swannick, the winner of the lottery in Nipton, will run straight towards this burrow, and he will be slaughtered by all of the rad scorpions. And there you guys have it, Crescent Canyon and some of the surrounding area. And number 1, the Searchlight Area. Camp Searchlight is obviously a very famous location within Fallout New Vegas. It is essential for you to visit there probably multiple times. However, there is a lot of really interesting stuff going on in the surrounding area. While Camp Searchlight is a highly irradiated area, and you might think the player would be encouraged to go around it, for whatever reason, I always just barge right through it, mainly to collect the 10 NCR dog tags on the former NCR soldiers, on the NCR ghouls. But there's a lot of really cool and really good loot on the outer parts of Camp Searchlight. So let's go check it out. Like before, we're going to be starting in a counterclockwise motion. So we're starting at the entrance to Camp Searchlight, and we're going to go counterclockwise, hitting all of the locations that I want to visit. Now, the first location is we're going to go to the southeast, just past this church, the Western Church in Camp Searchlight, and we're going to eventually find this kind of like trailer park where there's a bunch of RVs and trailers. Obviously, people probably used to live here a long time ago. But unfortunately, there is no interesting loot in any of these RVs, and this location is an unmarked location, and it's literally just known as the Searchlight Trailer Park. So kind of a cool little place, but unfortunately, there's not much of interest here. Now, if we keep going to the east, towards the southeast, eventually you'll notice a huge flight tower and a huge runway. I mean, obviously it's huge, it is an airport, but this facility is so freaking big and it's so easy to miss. The only entrance is this tunnel underneath the airport that kind of resembles the old Stapleton Airport in Denver, Colorado, where cars would drive underneath the airport. Just a really cool design. Now, Searchlight Airport is based on the real-life Searchlight Airport. However, in real life, the airport is much smaller. Obviously, in the Fallout universe, it appears that the airport had some kind of purpose with the US military due to probably the war with China or, who knows what. This airport is now inhabited by, well, who would have guessed, a ton of scorpions, rad scorpions, so make sure you take them out. Now, if we come over by the airport terminal, we can find some what appear to be fighter jets. Pretty freaking cool. Not too often you actually see fighter jets in the Fallout universe. Obviously, it's usually vertibirds. And we can find some trunks with a ton of caps and money, pre-war money, inside of them. So a really good place to go early on in the game for some easy caps. Now, as we walk down to the northeastern part of the runway, we'll just find, well, it's a flat runway. Who would have guessed? Kind of not so exciting, I guess. But there will be a lot of rad scorpions. And then if we head all the way to the western part, we can find what appears to be a crashed fighter jet. Perhaps they were trying to land during the Great War when the nukes were going off. Who knows? But there is an ammunition box underneath the jet. Just a really cool and really amazing area. I do wonder if this airport was originally going to serve a much bigger role in the story, perhaps being connected to the Boomers, or perhaps the Brotherhood of Steel or something, or the NCR even. Who knows, but today it's just, well, an abandoned airport with a ton of caps. After that, if we head towards the northeast, continuing our counterclockwise journey, we will eventually find these ramps kind of leading down the cliffside here. And if we go down these ramps, we will find the entrance to a mine. This is Searchlight East Gold Mine. as you can see here on the world map, just east of Camp Searchlight. Now inside we can find a very unique cave for Fallout New Vegas, a really wide open, just huge cave with some mining carts on this railroad track. And as we make our way to the back of the mine, we're going to find some of these Viper gunslingers, kind of just hanging around, kind of like talking. Obviously, they've made this place their hideout, although I have to question their logic because, well, they kind of have the NCR and the Legion breathing right down their neck, but hey, what do I know? Anyways, we can find some old mining equipment, and obviously we can loot the gunslingers for their ammunition, some bottle caps, not half bad stuff. Now, there's a very interesting interaction as we try to leave this mine. You'll hear some people coming in from the entrance, and we can find the other half of this gang of Vipers. And they realize that something is up, something is not right, and if you remain hidden, they will start searching the cave, trying to find what is going on. But eventually they will find you, so you have to kill all of them, or else, well, they're going to kill you. So just a really interesting and unique scripted encounter within the game. Now, we're going to come back to the entrance of Camp Searchlight, and this time we're going to head to the northeast. As you can see here, now you do have to be careful of ghouls and stuff, of course, while you're going out in this area. If you head over to the water tower and then go directly north, eventually you will find a cave. And this is Searchlight North Gold Mine. Now, this gold mine is a little bit glitched. The prompt to find the entrance is a little bit hard to find. I find that if you look up, you can find the prompt will show, and then you can enter the gold mine. Now, this is just a kind of copy and pasted mine that you can find throughout New Vegas. Inside, we're going to find a bunch of Feral Trooper ghouls, obviously former NCR soldiers before the Legion radiation attack on Camp Searchlight. There's a hard-locked gate down the left path, but unfortunately, there's really not a whole lot past the gate besides a singular ammunition box. Really, really sad. Now, if you don't have 75 lockpick, we can get a key for that gate if we go down the right side. But I have to ask, what is the point? You only get an ammunition box with like 10 bullets inside. Don't really know if it's worth the trouble. But down the right side, we can find a ton of dynamite, which is a really good find. And finally, as we go to the back of the mine, well, obviously there's some glowing troopers, so do be careful. And we can find, again, a lot of dynamite. Now, this dead Prospector has the key to that gate that we mentioned earlier, if you want it. And then there's a ton of dynamite on the shelf. So if you need some explosive ordnance, this is a great place to go. And from Searchlight North Gold Mine, if we go even further to the east, we will eventually find Coyote Mines. And this mine is a little bit unique just because it features a building above the mine. We can enter this building and you will be able to take whatever you want, surprisingly enough. And this ghoul chased me in here and scared the absolute shit out of me, so I had to kill him. But this house is actually, well, we can assume it's actually occupied by prospectors. So it's a little bit strange that we can just kind of take all of their stuff, because if we go around the little house here and go into the mine, you can sometimes find actual prospectors inside. Now, the layout of Coyote Mines is literally just a copy and paste of the Camp Lights North Gold Mine, where we were just before, but inside the left path we can find beds and open fire, signs of life. Sometimes the prospectors will spawn inside and sometimes they won't. If we go down the right path, just like in the Searchlight North Gold Mine, we can find a ton of explosives. So much dynamite and so many frag grenades. What more could an otter ever ask for? And there you guys have it, the Searchlight Area. I just really love this area because it feels like there's always something going on because of the respawning feral ghouls in the area. Just a very fun place to visit, and with all of the radiation in the area, it just has that quintessential Fallout feeling. And there you guys have it, 10 obscure locations within Fallout New Vegas that you can check out. Your adventure is not over yet though, because I have some honorable mentions, some other areas that I think are obscure and really cool that I would recommend checking out. So let's check out a few of these places. So the first place we'll check out is Nopa Cave. This is located just east of Red Rock Canyon and Chance's map. Also wanted to mention Chance's map because Chance is one of the people that was traveling with Benny when he killed you and when they were looking for you. And Chance made this crudely drawn or just kind of carved out map in the dirt here. And all of these objects represent different locations throughout the Mojave. Just kind of a really cool reference to the Fallout graphic novel, All Roads, which kind of serves as a prequel to Fallout New Vegas. Now, as we go east, we'll find Nopa Cave, which is inhabited by a lot of fire geckos. Now, inside, again, we'll just find a lot of fire geckos. It's a pretty standard cave within the game, but there is one thing to note is we can find a super mutant, a dead super mutant in here that is armed with a Fat Man. So as we mentioned earlier, there are not too many Fat Man spawns around the Mojave Wasteland, but this is actually where we can find one of them. Earlier we mentioned Cottonwood Crater, Nopa Cave, and the other location that at least that I know of is the Red Rock Canyon Pass to Jacobstown. So Nopa Cave is pretty cool, but it's also just pretty small. There's not a whole lot really going on here besides killing some fire geckos, which is why I put it in honorable mentions, but it is very easy to miss. Next up on the list is Primm Pass. If you go just east of Primm, you will discover this, the Emergency Service Rail Yard. Obviously, this used to be an old rail yard for fixing up the railroad that goes around the Mojave and around Las Vegas. Now here, there is no loot besides a lone Sunset Star Sarsaparilla bottle cap and just regular bottle caps next to these mattresses. And if you continue east from here, you will find Primm Pass and eventually Deadwind Cavern. This is one of the ways to go about reaching Las Vegas. Of course, normally you would go through Nipton. Now, the reason you probably wouldn't want to go through Primm Pass is because there is a blind Deathclaw here. But for whatever reason, the blind Deathclaw didn't spawn, so I was perfectly safe. I actually made a video exploring if it is possible to get through on very hard and just running past the Deathclaw. And yes, it actually is possible, but it requires a bit of luck. But I did develop a bit of a strategy, so if you're interested, I'll leave that video below. But once we get through, we will find Harper's Shack. This is just a small shack next to Deadwind Cavern. It can be used as player housing, however the Deathclaws can come here and they can enter. So, well, do be careful if you decide to make it your home. After resetting the game, the blind Deathclaw did spawn, so I decided to blow him up with a mini nuke to make my life easier. If you didn't know, blind Deathclaws are more powerful than regular Deathclaws because they have higher perception, but all their other stats are the same. And there's also a campfire, which makes this a pretty good housing unit. Next up is Bonnie Springs. This location that is just north of Good Springs and south of Red Rock Canyon, just southwest of Nopa Cave where we just were, is really interesting because it changes over time. The first time you visit Bonnie Springs, you're going to find a gang of Vipers here, and there are 2 Viper leaders. On one of the Viper leaders, which for me was this woman, she actually has a unique weapon on her, a pair of brass knuckles called Love and Hate. This weapon is actually pretty darn good, especially if you're going for an unarmed playthrough of Fallout New Vegas. So, hey, it's something you can consider. As you can see here, I actually just mowed down the Vipers with these bad boys. But we can easily then make our way through the rest of Bonnie Springs, which is obviously just an abandoned old town, now inhabited by these Vipers. Who knows what happened to the original residents, but if we go to the back and go up this small hill here, we can find a lone grave, perhaps signaling to a tragic end for somebody in this town. Anyways, if we leave Bonnie Springs and wait for about a few days or so and come back, we will notice the inhabitants have definitely changed. Now it is inhabited by, well, everyone's favorite, Cazadors. While I was fighting the Cazadors, I actually had this pretty funny interaction where this young Deathclaw came out of nowhere and was trying to help me against the Cazadors. What a lad. And I had this really badass moment as I killed the remaining Cazadors. This felt really cool. Next up is the Prospector's Den. This is the final location that I wanted to mention. It is located just east of Primm and just southwest of Primm Pass, where we were not too long ago. Now, located here, the first time we come here is, well, a den, a small den with a building and sign, so that alone makes it kind of a unique location. It is inhabited by Jackal gang members. As we come in, we will find a lot of dead prospectors. I highly recommend you loot their dead bodies because you can find a lot of playing cards in here, so if you want to try your hand at Caravan, this can be a great place to stock up on some cards. And after we kill all the Jackal gang members, we can easily loot around. Then inside this room, there's another dead prospector who had some playing cards on him. We can also find a Star Sunset Sarsaparilla bottle cap on that chessboard. and next to this bed we can find a copy of Tumblers Today, which will increase your lockpick by 3. Also a lot of pre-war books in there. Now, if you wait a few days and you come on back, you're going to find that now it is inhabited by prospectors, and there's actually a merchant here who often sells playing cards, really good for caravan, and everyone here is now friendly. We can even find some NCR prospectors. So just a pretty cool little change over time, and just a place that I really love to visit from time to time to stock up on playing cards. And there you have it, the top 10 obscure locations in Fallout New Vegas. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It turned out to be a lot longer than I ever anticipated, just because of all the detail that I decided to go into in each and every location. So I hope you learned something. I hope you have some ideas for a future Fallout playthrough, if you're going to do a role play, or just have some ideas for some loot, or if you just want to continue your adventure in the Mojave Wasteland. Whatever it is, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought of the list in the comments section below. Are there any locations that I missed that you think should be on the list or anything like that? Please let me know. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please comment, like, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And as always, until next time.